Like and share the show. Take a look at today's headlines, and we'll get rocking and rolling here on the Tuesday edition of the I Love CVille show. Interesting conversation had this morning with a local builder and developer on how the cost of goods and in particular lumber and how labor is becoming a point of concern for builders in our community. For not just builders, but the conversation I had today with a local builder and developer said housing advocates are also concerned about this. We'll talk about that on today's program. I want to talk on today's show the UVA, the report, the mass shooting at the University of Virginia. That report is getting delayed again. I think that's a report where we deserve some clarity. I want to talk about that on today's program. The town of Scottsville is in the same position that many local jurisdictions are. It cannot find people to contribute from in a civic standpoint to its operations. Is the town of Scottsville best suited dissolving its town status? That was something that came up in today's Daily Progress. I want to talk about that today. I want to also talk on today's program, and Judah Wickhauer is going to offer a lot of perspective today about why we have no contested elections. I don't think we have a single contested election yet. That boggles my mind.
Very strange.
It boggles my mind. Why is there not a single contested election in this community? Not one in the city, not one in the county. You got one jurisdiction that doesn't even have candidates running. The Jack Jewett. Granted, Diantha McKeel just announced that she was not going to run. We're going to talk about that on today's program. We'll talk Virginia basketball's win against Pittsburgh yesterday. Dominant victory. Judah Wickhauer's got a couple topics that he wants to cover on today's show, including the Virginia religious homeschool exemption. In your mind, this is not necessarily the best exemption out there. And rent caps versus rental assistant, which one is better? A lot I want to cover on the show. Like and share the show. I've got a couple of deals in the hopper. Or I shouldn't say deals in the hopper. I got one client that's looking to get into the I'll offer some clarity when the mics go on, and then you guys can hear from me on the talk show. Judah, which headline is most intriguing to you today?
We've got a lot of good ones today. I think the Virginia religious homeschool exemption is a good one because I think it would be easy for people to gloss over the overall facts and not really understand what this is about. And I think it seems like something that we definitely should understand.
Like and share the show, guys. We'll get rock and rolling here in T-minus 30 seconds. Judah Wickhauer, we can rock and roll when you're ready.
Quiet on the set.
Good Tuesday afternoon, guys. Thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille show. My name is Jerry Miller. A pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille network on a day that feels like spring. I'm looking at somebody across the street from us on Market Street that is smoking a cigarette outside the Enterprise Center. And she is in a shirt that is a short sleeve shirt, and she has no socks on and not a jacket on her body. I walked the family German Shepherd this morning, and I was actually hot by wearing a hooded sweatshirt in our walk around Ivy in Albemarle County. Our district, the Jack Jewett district, currently does not have a candidate that's running for an open seat previously held by, currently, but soon to be opened by Diantha McKeel. What is going on with local government. Charlottesville City, Brian Pinkston and Juan Diego Wade are running unopposed. There's not a candidate that has stepped in the ring at the Jack Jewett district. Ned Galloway, is he going to run unopposed again in the Rio district? It's a fair question. The town of Scottsville is so bleak with civic engagement. The level of civic engagement is so bleak in Scottsville that this town may be best served dissolving and just integrating into Albemarle County. I know Old Guard Scottsville, about 500 people, doesn't want to hear that, but you can't get anyone to serve in any of the positions. Check out the Daily Progress article on that story online right now. A lot we're going to cover on today's program, guys, including a conversation I had with a local builder who straight up said, guys, our labor, whether people want to admit this on the record or not, and interestingly, he mentioned on 3 different occasions not to use his name, but the labor with local building and remodeling, many undocumented individuals. And those undocumented individuals not showing up for work, concerned about their future in our country, deportation, and the labor pool with remodeling and building in Albemarle County, Central Virginia, the city of Charlottesville, has shrunk considerably. The on-again, off-again commentary on tariffs as it applies to Canada and Mexico and beyond is also raising the ire or points of concern for local builders as it applies to lumber and cost of goods. All this is happening at the same time where interest rates are over 7%, at the same time where housing is the most expensive in American history, and it creates even more headwinds for first-time home buyers and housing affordability. It's a point of conversation that the local builder I spoke with today said you should bring this up on your talk show so the community truly understands what's going on. You read an article on the Free Enterprise Forum. Neil Williamson, I believe, is watching the program right now. I check out his website. Neil, I check it out twice a day. I think you realize that. And he had some commentary on the 1st of February, 2 or 3 days ago, on Charlottesville's new zoning ordinance, and he said the new zoning ordinance needs flat-out CPR. I'll take it a step further. The living, breathing document, or the so-called living and breathing document, Brian Pinkston, Juan Diego Wade's words, a malleable document, is not just in need of CPR. It frankly may be flatlined and heading for 6 feet underground status. We have a new zoning ordinance that's created the opposite of what it's intended to do, and this is all happening at the same time where the labor pool in our community, a labor pool that's relied on for building homes, is shrinking mightily. There was a protest yesterday on Route 29. You had dozens of Hispanics in our community protesting deportation and their fear that loved ones will be taken by ICE out of the country because of visa or lack thereof status. I'm not going to make it about politics. That's not what this show is about. If you follow any of the socials out there, you know ICE is very prevalent in our community and is knocking on homes and going to people's place of business. And that is scaring the hell out of a lot of people in our community. We'll talk about that on today's show. Today's program is a many-layered onion. We will talk rent caps or rent assistant. Which one is better? I'm a huge adversary of rent control or rent caps. I don't know how Judah feels on that. Rent assistance is certainly the best in my eyes. But does the community really want to offer rent assistance, rent relief? That's a question I want to ask. I'm curious of what Judah has to say. We'll talk on today's program, Virginia getting a victory, a mass murder report at the University of Virginia, an audit that still has not been given to the community. The longer this report stays in clandestine purgatory, the more the community asks, what the hell is going on here and what are you hiding from us? I want to talk about that on today's program. A lot we're going to cover, ladies and gentlemen. Judah Wickower will weave you in on a two-shot. The headline to you that is most intriguing on a glorious and gorgeous Tuesday afternoon in downtown Charlottesville.
Well, I really think that the discussion about religious homeschool exemptions deserves to be more widespread. I think it's something that has a major effect on kids in homes that are choosing this exemption, and it's more than just it's a lot more than simply being able to homeschool your child, and I think for the sake of those kids, we should be discussing this and potentially sending a message to Youngkin as to whether or not we agree with his assertion that he will veto anything that comes from this.
Ginny Hu watching the program, one of the most fierce homeschooling advocates in the Commonwealth of Virginia, a homeschooling parent herself. She's very glad we're going to cover religious exemption on today's show. Ginny, we should bring you back on the show to talk homeschooling in the very near future. I hope you share your perspective on this topic. Very interestingly, both Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, and Deep Throat, number one in our family, have shared at the exact same time, one on the I Love CVille group, Neil Williamson, Deep Throat through Twitter DM, the same quote, and this is the quote. Swedish economist Assar Lindbeck once wrote, in many cases, rent control appears to be the most efficient technique presently known to destroy a city, except for bombing. Both Deep Throat and Neil Williamson shared the same quote at the exact same time. I was having a conversation via email yesterday, Neil, with Deep Throat about your push for residential and commercial spaces. I would love to get an update from you, Neil, so I can pass it on not only to Deep Throat, but the viewers and listeners, how close Albemarle County may be to actually green-lighting residential and commercial spaces. Very curious of that. Judah, as my throat has given me some challenges today, I'd like for you to take the lead, which is one of your fortes, on why we have a lack of community and civic engagement when it comes to an election cycle that is of the utmost importance. Pinkston and Wade in Charlottesville City, right now, zero opposition. And help me understand why incumbents, Pinkston and Wade, are running with no opposition. And for the folks that make the argument, well, the folks are thinking about jumping in the mix, I say, hogwash, jump in the mix already. You have incumbents and you need as much runway as possible to challenge them. Diantha McKeel makes an announcement last week that she will not seek a fourth term in my district, the Jack Jewett district. Why is no one jumping in the mix in the Jack Jewett district right after Ms. McKeel says she's not going to run again? Why is there no one challenging Supervisor Galloway in the Rio? Why is there no one getting in the Samuel Miller district to oppose Mr. Jim Andrews? You have a time in American history, a time in Commonwealth history, and a time in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia history where we just saw perhaps the most contentious election, the most volatile and divisive election, and some would say of all time. Now, others have pushed back on that statement, but it was certainly volatile, it was certainly divisive, and it certainly had a lot of people voting. Why has that turnout not yielded engagement at a local level when local politics matter even more for our communities than what happens with a White House and governor's mansion runs? I want to talk about that on today's program. I want to talk about how this applies to the town of Scottsville. The town of Scottsville, roughly 500 people. The civic engagement in Scottsville is so bleak that there is some conversation starting that Scottsville may be best suited dissolving town status, shedding town status, and just assimilating itself or merging into Albemarle County. That would be an effing travesty. And I'll take it a step further. Sean Tubbs in his community newsletter yesterday, Sean Tubbs, excellent report, excellent at what he does. CVille is now a place that he's trying to monetize. He writes that the iconic, ladies and gentlemen, the iconic ferry that bridges Albemarle County and Buckingham County, the Hatton Ferry, currently overseen by the Albemarle-Charlottesville Historic Society. The Historic Society has said, we will discontinue operations of the Hatton Ferry. This is a ferry that whisks vehicles on the James River between Albemarle County and Buckingham County, and is on the brink of being no more. The Charlottesville Albemarle Historic Society has managed the operations of the Hatton Ferry since 2010. They took over control from the Virginia Department of Transportation. Now the Historical Society is saying, we don't have the budget to run this ferry anymore. Everywhere you look, you see civic engagement, community engagement crumbling. In this article in the Daily Progress, another element that struck me here, the Scottsville Lions Club, a national networking group with local chapters, a nonprofit organization. The Scottsville Lions Club had been around for 80 years. It is on the brink of shutting down. It has just 5 members left. 5 members. Engagement with town council in Scottsville, no one is willing to do it. America, Charlottesville, Central Virginia, Albemarle, what the heck is going on here? Is this another we chalk up to COVID collateral damage?
I think in part. I think I have to imagine that surrounding a lot of your questions is the sense of keeping your head down, especially in a largely blue district like ours. It would seem to me that if you're picking up on the question about nobody running, at least in Charlottesville, if you're a Democrat, unless you really want to be on the council, we've got a Democrat. I mean, our city council is full of Democrats, correct?
I don't understand that thinking whatsoever. Why is there not competition within the Democratic Party alone? Why are we not having more candidates in the Democratic primary? Why does Ned Galloway not have a challenger for potentially a second straight term in the Rio district that's Democrat? Why is there not a candidate that's choosing to pursue Diantha McKeel's seat that's a Democrat? Challenge Ned Galloway, challenge Brian Pinkston, challenge Juan Diego Wade. If you're saying that it's such a blue community, I appreciate your commentary. If you're saying it's such a blue community, why would anyone red that's run? That's fine. But you would think there would be at least competition within the Dems, within blues. Would you not?
Possibly.
Why are we? What is going on here?
Maybe they. I mean, I don't know.
You don't chalk up keeping your head down if I'm saying it's Dems that would be running against Dems.
No, that wasn't the point that I was making. You're right. But maybe they just feel like town council is served in that regard already. I honestly don't know. Maybe they feel that the incumbents have enough of an advantage that to run would be a waste of money.
I said on yesterday's program, interim chairwoman Nancy Muir of the Albemarle County GOP. Mm-hmm. How can she capitalize on what happened with Trump's victory and Youngkin's victory to have it trickle down the totem pole to Albemarle County, 6th largest county in Albemarle County?
That would be
in the
rough.
Commonwealth of Virginia. How could she capitalize it? How does she capitalize on what's happening at a state and federal level?
Find a great candidate and put them out there. Even if they lose, it still will get people talking.
Can you think of a playing field that is more prime for opportunity for a party that's trying to capitalize on success at the Commonwealth level and at the federal level than the Jack Jewett District and Albemarle, where a 3-term candidate announces that she is not going to seek re-election? The playing field is literally wide open.
It's empty.
There's no one there. There's no one there.
Yeah.
Can you think of a situation in the Samuel Miller district where does anyone have an inclination of Jim Andrews is going to run again?
I don't know anything about the guy.
My instinct, Neil Williamson, is Jim going to run again? You know as well as anyone, right? Ray Cadell listening to the program on the road. Speaking of the road, the fire and rescue just sprint by our studio in downtown Charlottesville, as you're probably hearing right there. Neil, is Mr. Andrews going to run again? Another question for Neil, friend of the program. Would you expect that our friend, Ned Galloway, is going to run unopposed for yet another election cycle? I mean, very sincere questions here. There's no time I can think of. I've been here 25 years. I don't want to say no. I'm going to speak straightforwardly without hyperbole. There are a few other times in my 25 years in this community, 25 in August, where I've seen the playing field this open.
Yeah.
And nothing is being done by it.
Mm-hmm.
Is this collateral damage from COVID?
Somewhat, I think.
Is the community so shaped differently with who lives here that it's dwindled the participant pool even more? Are we so less inclined to be civically engaged because COVID has changed human behavior, where we're working in digital silos in our basement, in our underwear, in our bathrobes? Or hybrid remote working, where we're not seeing the fatal flaws of a community, encouraging us to get civically engaged? Mr. Williamson, no formal announcements for BOS have been made. Many are betting on Ned Galloway to run. Is anyone going to run in opposition to Ned Galloway? I love Ned Galloway. Would I like to see him have competition? Hells to the yeah. Would Neil Williamson like to see him have some competition? He said it on the program. Contested elections are the best. Yeah. Marlene Jones straight up says Gen Zers are slackers. Marlene Jones, unafraid to get an entire generation irked at her comment right there. Mr. Watson, James Watson, many of these boards and elected positions are essentially volunteer opportunity that it consumes 30 to 50 hours a week while working a full-time job. It's not practical. Yeah. Only practical for a small number of people, either young or much older and established. I concur with Mr. Watson.
Yeah.
But at one time before COVID, people ran for them. Post-COVID, the pool has dwindled to next to nothing. You get on one of these boards, especially school board or Board of Supervisors or council, you've effing cornered the market. Think about it. Lloyd Snook, second term. Michael Payne, second term. Mm-hmm. Ned Galloway, what, going to pursue his third term? Diantha McKeel just is in the process of finishing her third term. Is Malik in her fifth term?
I think so.
In her fifth for Malik, is that right? I mean, look at this Albemarle County School Board. Kate Schartz of Ivy. I had some local conservatives call me a few weeks ago and ask me to run. My answer was heck no after watching what happened to Meg Bryce. Also, I have 4 young kids.
Yeah. I mean, like I said,
Bryce got martyred. The proverbial nailed to a cross. Still getting nailed to the cross with what Laufer and Carlson are trying to do with her Board of Education Youngkin appointment.
And they did the same thing to Jim Dillenbeck. If there's even the slightest smell of conservatism, they'll crucify you.
Judah Wickower, Vanessa Parkhill's giving you some props. 100% Judah. Look at how some have targeted local businesses for having certain views. It is sad that people who might otherwise be willing to serve may choose to not do so out of fear of intimidation with regard to their personal safety, the security of their property, and the stability of their livelihood. It breaks my heart.
100%.
She says, and you jump in after this, that even if you're a moderate Democrat, you're being doxxed and have fear for your moderacy.
Yeah.
And Vanessa Parkhill pushes back on Marlene Jones. Not all Gen Zers are slackers. Not all young millennials are. TJ fatally gave it a shot.
Yeah.
Everyone rides the dealership on Pantops.
Blanket statements can be troublesome.
The thought you were going to offer.
I mean, I was just going to point out the fact that we've seen, I mentioned in other shows that we've seen spray painting, vandalism of signs. In the case of Jim Dillenbeck, he essentially asked for for an open discussion with no politics, and was immediately crucified for essentially, they just started accusing him of things. And so I'm not surprised we don't see any candidates coming out of the right anywhere near the center of Virginia. And in terms of the left, as I said before, I mean, you said it yourself. You've got people on their second terms, and you've got the mayor and vice mayor who are both running for a second term. If you were a Democrat, would you want to go up against that?
It happened.
And I don't mean you.
It happened prior to COVID.
I know you would, but
it happened before COVID.
I think there's a lot that's changed since COVID, and it's not just because of COVID. I think it also has to do with our habits, with our our phone habits, with our ordering habits. People like to talk about shopping local, but I know that I'm fairly certain that a large portion of our local populace is using Amazon for just about anything that Amazon offers. It's convenient.
100%.
Well, I think that
you'd rather this is.
I think that colors so much of our society. It's not just about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's the way we are choosing to engage with life, and increasingly that way is to get on your phone and order what you want. And you can't order your government over the phone. You have to get up and get out, and you have to talk to people, and you have to not be on your couch, and you've got to. And I'm not saying that everybody in Charlottesville is sitting on the couch. I'm just saying it requires a level of engagement that I think we're moving away from as people, not as any specific, not as United Statesians, or I just think as the more we embrace the technology that's growing and growing, the more we're disengaging.
All right, well said, Judah Wickower, on point. One of the best pieces of commentary Judah's offered here. I'll throw this to you. This is a crazy statement about this. Then Lottie Murray, I'm coming to you. Marlene Jones, I'm coming to you. Ginny Hu, I'm coming to you. This is a crazy statement, okay? Is the 2025 version of civic engagement for young millennials and Gen Zers engagement that takes place anonymously on social media or message boards? Has human behavior changed so much that a 40 and under individual thinks civic engagement is anonymously posting on digital platforms?
I'm sure for some that's true.
And that's terrifying. That is terrifying. Is today's version of civic engagement trying to cancel a person, a brand, or business, or an effort online as opposed to showing up in person and doing the actual work?
Sadly, for a lot, I think that is the case.
Okay, and that's also terrifying. Ginny Who's got some comments. Her photo on screen. I'm a mother of 3 Gen Z kids, she says. My eldest is a triple major. My middle is an Eagle Scout with Vigil honor. And my youngest has been cooking 3 to 5 course meals since 9 years old.
Nice.
I do see some slackers among their peers, but it is by no means the whole generation.
No.
She adds, whether local Dems mean to or not, they are sending the message that their views are so monolithic, there is no need for an in-party challenge.
Yeah.
And if that's true, it's really sad. There isn't a variety of thought present. It directly ties into what I've been loudly screaming and voicing about the serious decrease in volunteerism in not just our community, but elsewhere.
Yeah,
Fantastic comments from Ginny Who.
definitely.
Lonnie
agree
Murray.
100%.
Lonnie Murray's comments. The problem with Republicans in Albemarle County is that they either try to run a national issue or they support issues that are a no-go in Albemarle County. A fiscally conservative, socially progressive candidate might have a chance. That's me. Fiscally conservative, socially progressive. That is me to a T right there. A Teddy Roosevelt Republican candidate might make for an interesting race. He also adds, keep in mind, younger generations graduated into an economy with no jobs and ton of college debt.
Yeah.
They have nowhere near the disposable income that boomers do.
Yeah.
Public office takes a lot of time and effort that just may not be practical when you are already working 2 jobs. Great comment from a smart man, Lonnie Murray. James Watson. Down in Richmond, they need to make some changes so that localities are not paying the mayor $18,000 a year. I realize some cities also have a city manager, but very few people can donate their time for peanuts, and everyone knows it. But it just continues to remain that way. I'll offer some clarity on what he's saying. City councilors are paid $18,000. The mayor's paid $20,000 in Charlottesville City. Supervisors are paid even less in Albemarle County. And the folks that are elected in Scottsville, you know how much they make per year? $0.
Oof.
$0 to be involved in government in the town of Scottsville. Guess what? No one's willing to do the work. And the old guard is saying, we don't want to do the work anymore. We want to quit.
Well, I couldn't. Who could do the work for free?
Philip Dow, we've dubbed you the mayor of Scottsville. What the heck is going on with your town, Philip Dow? And is your town, Philip Dow, on the cusp of dissolving into Albemarle County and shedding its town status? Philip Dow, is your town on the cusp of assimilating into Albemarle County and dissolving its town status? That's a question for someone who lives in Scottsville. I really want to hear your perspective on that, Mr. Dow. John Blair, the reality is this: no one will ever run as a Republican because of social ostracization. The D's majority is all in favor of the new zoning ordinance, and Albemarle's housing policies and most potential challengers realize a primary challenge won't win a low turnout primary dominated by activists. I think people just have to realize that Albemarle and Charlottesville, now the most liberal area of the Commonwealth of Virginia, it's not even close. The combined Harris versus Trump total for Albemarle Charlottesville was Harris 63,714, Trump 24,941. Mr. Blair also says, please tell Ginny Who that I sat on an Eagle Scout border review last night, and she is 100% correct. There are a lot of great young people in this country. John Blair, great comments right there. Philip Dow, seriously, I would love your perspective on what the heck is going on in Scottsville right now. You have one tiny government, the town of Scottsville, saying no one will do anything civic in our community. No one. The town of Scottsville is losing its Lions Club, and it can't find people to run the town. I want you to understand that. Deep Throat has a question for Philip Dow. A place like Scottsville, what does the town council actually have authority over? It has authority over the budget, Deep Throat. The budget it spends each year. Philip Dow, offer more clarity on that if you could. It's just, it's slim pickings. It is slim pickings. And you would think that this would be the exact time where people would get in because of how engaged the community, the country was with what happened in November.
But we also saw how divisive it was. And
Let me ask you this question. Meg Bryce, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've said on this program she made 2 errors during her run. I'll take that back. Meg Bryce, when she ran, she had one thing going against her that she had no control of. That was her
father.
Her father and her maiden name. It was not fair to hold against her, but people did. She had no control of that. The answer that she gave in that NAACP forum about systemic racism, I would bet if she had her druthers, she would have worded it completely differently. That made national news.
She might have, but I think it's just one of the symptoms of where we're at today, that you can't pose even a question, much less a.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
You don't buy that?
I don't buy that in today's world that you cannot challenge the status quo. That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying that there are serious consequences to what do we earlier in our show we mentioned the fact that that the viewpoint is monolithic, and there is no. We also mentioned the fact that there are moderate Democrats who get vilified for offering a slightly different viewpoint, and anybody that's paying attention and not just shouting into the void knows that what Meg Bryce was saying wasn't a statement of fact. It was a request for discussion. She wanted a discussion.
She wanted.
You can't have that in today.
She 100% wanted the discussion, but how the answer was presented on the record was lacking perception management and strategy.
But if you don't think that would have happened, no matter what she said, I've got a surprise for you.
I totally agree with you.
Even if she had chosen the
best wording possible,
the safest wording possible,
yep,
by anyone's definition,
she still would have been picking it apart, but not to the extent that she was. Okay, it was not the best wording. I have a straightforward question for you. You can't hold what her dad did against her. I was willing to die on that limb. I have said that answer in the NAACP forum was, at that point of the election cycle, not the most strategic. And it sounds like you're inclined to agree with me in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. But
it was not executed the right way. Besides that, what mistakes were made in the campaign?
Running in the wrong district?
It was not a district. It was the at-large seat.
I know.
It was all of Albemarle County. She was able to garner the vote of Glenmore, of Scottsville, of Barboursville, and the historically purple to reddish areas of Albemarle. And she got walloped.
Yeah, and anyone watching that has to have some serious reservations about jumping into that ring.
So to run today, you have to be a mannequin to win in Albemarle County. You have to legitimately be a mannequin.
You would, I mean, if you wanted to run as anything but a staunch liberal, you would probably have to have led a fake life and done it all in order to fool enough people that you could run in an election and not have anyone think that you were in any way connected to the Republican Party. I mean, if you'd lived your life pretending to be a Democrat for the express purpose of running and flipping, I mean, it's absurd. But I don't think there's a chance someone honestly running in Central Virginia.
This comment comes in from off the record Oscar. That's the new moniker I'm going to give him. Off the record Oscar says, "You can't blame COVID for everything, but certainly shaped a lot of tendencies. Locally, most who would be good candidates with enough experience and insight have too much to lose by joining council or supervisor board, time, money, reputation, etc. Further, I find myself in peers left of the current national movement, but right of local decisions, a true centrist." That's me. That's most of us.
Yeah.
Off the record, Oscar says, "I find myself and my peers left of the current national movement." No. They left the current national movement, but right of local decisions, a true centrist. One vote or comment that doesn't align with the mob could ruin you in this town without context.
Yeah.
Grateful for anyone willing to give their effort and time to council or supervisor board, but what a risk it is to be a centrist. Mm-hmm. Let me understand this. I got another thing I need help understanding. Okay. This is the second most expensive community to live in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And when the HUD median family household income comes out for 2023, it was $123,200. When the median family household income for HUD comes out for 2024, which it will in a very short amount of time, it comes out at the end of the first quarter, it's going to be higher than $123,200. I'll bet you it'll jump over $124K. We have one of the most expensive places to live, yet the ideology is of the most one of the most activist and liberal ideologies in the Commonwealth. The wealth that is coming and pitching tent and setting up shop to live in this Charlottesville and Albemarle County and these jurisdictions, that wealth is not bringing with it what is generally a centrist or right-leaning ideology. Historically, when you get to wealth, now it changes when you get to obscene wealth, like the 1% of 1% wealth. That's when the ideology can go either way. Whether you have, I don't give a duck money where doesn't matter to you how your money plays, or you vote based purely on what's in your bank account. But once you get into that couple 100,000, and that's where we're at, couple 100,000 to say million family household income, just use that number. Let's use the $125 to a million family household income. Generally, that brings moderate to conservative voter patterns because you're voting first with pocketbook. But that hasn't happened here. Curious why.
I don't know that that's always true.
I mean, there's Jack Jewett, Carol Thorpe of the Jack Jewett District. "Jerry, I live in Jack Jewett, and while more than capable and willing to serve on the board, I will never run because I have no chance to win. I don't care about the money, and I have plenty of time to do the job. The reality is, as a non-Democrat, I can't get elected." Thank you for leaving that comment. Right now in the Jack Jewett District, there is nobody running. Whoever runs at this point is the candidate, is the winner. There is nobody running. Mm-hmm. Maria Marshall Barnes. CVille has stopped the apartments from being built, very protective of growth. Unfortunately, the town will have a hard, or Scottsville, excuse me. Scottsville has stopped the apartments from being built, very protective of growth. Unfortunately, the town will have a hard time surviving without it. I don't think anyone wants that pressure, especially just being a volunteer, sadly. I mean, are we on the cusp of seeing the town of Scottsville dissolve and just be another part of Albemarle County? Stacy Baber, welcome to the program. I'm gonna include Stacy Baber. Have a little fun with Stacy Baber on the show here in the comment section of the I Love CVille group. Thank you for watching. Philip Dow, I've been involved with politics. Well, I've been involved with some of the politics. We have a few good people on the council fighting Albemarle County, and from my understanding, Albemarle County gets most of the taxes. He's talking the town of Scottsville. Ever since my good friend Nancy Gill is no longer mayor, we lost a wonderful mayor, and the town has gone downhill. He says business in the Scottsville area do not regularly get taxed, I believe. I know a lot of some of the businesses are giving money to the town, which supports the budget. We miss Nancy Gill. You may want to have her back on your show. She's still someone involved and reports on what she finds to council. I would love to have Nancy Gill on the show. She's a friend of the show. Mm-hmm. Love to have Nancy Gill. It's my understanding that Nancy Gill is spending a considerable amount of her time in the Northeast. Am I right on that, Philip Dow? At least that's what I remember her doing. Marlene Jones, Lonnie Murray, boomers do not have that income in their 30s and 40s. It's not just political. All civic roles, nonprofits, church boards, etc., see a lack of engagement happening. I think if this is the case, it's sad that the young millennial and the Gen Zer sees civic engagement as digital engagement. Civic engagement is getting online and sharing and galvanizing and organizing digitally as opposed to showing up in person and doing the work.
I think that's part of it. But I think what you mentioned earlier about it just being too expensive. You've got people coming up, reaching adulthood, and and seeing that a lot of the things that they were told were attainable American dreams are receding in the distance. The chance of owning a home, having a decent job that pays your bills. I mean, when those things get out of hand, there's just I don't see a whole lot of will, much less time and attention that can be paid to something like, giving 20, 30, 40 hours of your time for a pittance.
Mike Pruitt, Neil Williamson, I would say, is a young millennial. I would say that's what Mike Pruitt is. He's the Scottsville District Representative in the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors. Maria Marshall Barnes highlights that Nancy Gill did a fabulous job as mayor.
No doubt.
Vanessa Parkhill said, and this is why anyone with center-right leanings willing to run in this area is more likely a retiree. They've made their money, livelihood, and friends are less risky. They have less to lose, is what she's alluding to.
Yep.
Deep Throat, I keep coming back to what is the issue where the electorate here is vehemently opposed to the gentry left position. Absent finding that issue, it is hopeless for anybody who is not just dancing to the left activist tune. I want to know that question as well.
Repeat the question.
What is the issue where the electorate here is vehemently opposed to the gentry left position?
Gentry left?
Where to the moderate. The well-to-do people coming into this area are gentry liberals. That is, people who went to prestigious schools that inoculate a woke liberal worldview. They aren't Chamber of Commerce people. They are people who live off government contracts, grants, academics, etc. Jenny Hu gives props to John. Glad to hear that. The Eagle Board of Review are my favorite things to do with volunteering and scouting. She also says, but parents also need to model that volunteer behavior. My kids all volunteer and watch my husband and I make sacrifices to volunteer. I'm in too many organizations where the parents want their kids to have the experiences but don't want to help make it happen. It's a conversation, guys, for a Tuesday afternoon in downtown Charlottesville on the I Love CVille network. Just trying to have real talk on the show. And right now you're in February, the 4th of February, and you don't have a contested effing election. And the civic engagement is so bad that the town of Scottsville can't find anyone to run it. The Jack Jewett district doesn't have a candidate. Mm-hmm. The vice mayor and the mayor are going to run unopposed. Supervisor Galloway is going to run unopposed for a third term. And this is all happening in the shadows of one of the nastiest presidential races in American history that we thought could trickle down to the local level. And a nasty race between McAuliffe and Youngkin. I mean, what? On the cusp of the at-large race with Bryson Spillman that got nasty. Mm-hmm. The engagement's worsened. It's a Tuesday afternoon. For Judah Wickower, who did a hell of a job today, my name is Jerry Miller. Thank you for joining us.